Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Dozer, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the Cragmire Crypts epic version of this dungeon. I'm going to be running this on my Great Weapon Fighter. The current gear score needed to enter this dungeon is 5,700. At the time I think I am 8,200, something like that. So this dungeon is pretty challenging and it's fun. So yeah, just sit back, relax, and we're going to go through this. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges, some of the things you may want to look out for, and just general strategy that I use when playing my Great Weapon Fighter. Okay, just so you won't be watching a 45-minute commentary, I've cut most of the trash fights out and tried to focus just on the bosses. So let me know how you like it, and if you would like to see a full version, just leave it in the comments below and I can upload the whole 45-minute version. But I just didn't see any reason for doing that right now. Alright, so here we are. First thing I want to note is that while this dungeon is initially fairly challenging for your gear score that you're going to be entering this dungeon in, it's still really fun. What I would recommend and what I see a lot of people doing is to get your gear score up to be able to run this as fast as possible. You may want to look into obtaining some PvP gear. It is rumored that the stats from the PvP gear are slightly better than tier 1 and will initially kind of jumpstart you into jumping straight into these tiered heroic or epic dungeons. So grind out some PvP glory and get your weapons, armor, stuff like that to increase that gear score, and if you get enough then you may be able to jump onto tier 2 content. But I just wanted to run some tier 1, kind of get in the groove of things and see how everything flowed and pretty much worked. Now, obviously the damage has been scaled up. You can't just really stand and stuff. There are a few times where I do, and you'll see that I take massive amounts of damage. So pretty much the strategy that I'm playing here is I want to be more of kind of like an AoE class. So, you know, anytime I see a bunch of mobs grouped up together, stuff like that, I start, you know, putting out my AoE abilities to try to get as much spread damage as I can. As far as single target goes, I'm still spec'd to have a fairly decent amount of single target usage. In this dungeon, I believe I placed second right behind the Trickster Rogue in terms of damage. I've ran this a couple of other times and been in, you know, second damage, but I've gotten most, you know, mobs killed, stuff like that. So Great Weapon Fighter is fairly valuable if you know, just watch what you're doing, pay attention to what's going on around you. I have ran this with a control wizard before, and it is really cool to run this with them. They can kind of group everything up while you just AoE everything down. So one flaw that I do notice about this dungeon grouping system is that you won't always have a healer in your party. I don't know why it does this, and I hope they plan on fixing this in the future, because this content, it's really difficult to run without a cleric healer. You really pretty much have to have one of those. I've seen it done without an actual guardian fighter. It was a little challenging, but it can be done. But a healer is a must. I was in a group earlier this week, and we had like 2 Great Weapon Fighters, a healer, and a control wizard. So different comps are cool to kind of play around with, but like I said before, just make sure you have that healer. When it comes to selecting gear for my Great Weapon Fighter, the 3 main stats that I shoot for are power, critical strike, and recovery. Recovery increases the recharge speed of your encounter powers and amount of action points you gain. So in theory, the more recovery you have, the more abilities you can spam pretty much. Power increases your overall damage, and critical strike obviously increases the amount of or how much you crit. So those are the 3 main stats that I shoot for. This is not the only way to play a Great Weapon Fighter. This is just my way, and I'm still experimenting with different things and researching. So bear with me. If you know of anything, if you know of any other stat combinations that may be a little bit better, then feel free to drop them in the comments and let me know. Since Neverwinter's combat system is live action, positioning is very important. I'm still trying to get this whole thing down, but what I generally try to do is stay either to the side or behind mobs. You kind of never want to be in front, especially of bosses, because they sometimes do AoE cone effect type damage, and it hits for a lot. You also want to position yourself for all of your cone type AoE abilities. For example, my shout. It has a small narrow cone, but it is an area of effect ability. So generally, I want to get in front of a group of mobs before I do that, kind of position myself in just the right position, and then use that ability for maximum damage. When dealing damage, it is very important that you have Unstoppable up when using your encounter and daily powers. This is because you don't want to be knocked back or knocked down while in the middle of one of these combinations. If so, it cancels the effect and it's a DPS loss. It's very frustrating. I've been caught in this a few times myself, and now I'm more conscious about, do I have my Unstoppable up before I do this? Because it really is a DPS boost. Anytime you can gain an advantage to increasing your DPS, you want to take that. Also, while using Unstoppable, you take 25 to 30% less damage depending on how much you have. So generally, I just kind of gauge if I'm doing a boss fight, I may let my Unstoppable power peak up to 100% before I use it, or if I'm just clearing trash, I may let it get to 50% and then you can use it then. But either way, just don't let it sit at maximum. That's bad. You want to be using that as much as possible. It also increases your swing time, so you attack much faster. It may do a little less damage, but you attack a lot faster. I've noticed that a lot of boss fights within this instance revolve around ad control. Bosses will spawn multiple ads and they won't stop until the boss is actually dead. So it is very important to know when to switch to ads and when to not. Also, as a great weapon fighter, you want to be wary of your healer. Make sure that your healer is not constantly under attack or surrounded by a lot of mobs. Great weapon fighters have a lot of pushback abilities, have a lot of knockdown abilities to protect the healer and let them reposition if this occurs. Starting out in Tier 1 dungeons, the content seems moderately easy, but as it goes on, once you start to reach Tier 2 and Tier 3, communication becomes extremely important. You have to have communication. I really can't stress that enough. We are getting ready to enter Tier 2 content with my guild. We just had our 5th or 6th person hit 60, so as soon as we all get organized and together, then we will begin grinding out Tier 2 and Tier 3 content. In my experience, I've noticed that it's best to run with a guild or a group of people that you personally know. That way, you can coordinate your attacks, coordinate who's going to stand where and what to do. Running with pugs is okay, but it kind of leaves a lot of room for error because generally pugs do not communicate with each other. In this instance, this is a pug instance that I'm not running this with my guild. We actually wipe on the last boss, and as a result, a couple people quit, so that was pretty much the end of that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that all pugs are fell or anything like that. I'm just simply saying that for me, it's a lot less frustrating for me to run with people that I'm, on Ventrilo or Mumble with, or on Skype, some friends, just because it just makes that communication a little bit easier. So, pugging is fine, and I'm pretty sure the game is designed around completely being puggable. But it just saves you a little headache to do it a little bit more organized. Even though we ended up wiping at the end of this dungeon on the very last boss and our group fell apart, I still think this video holds as a great example to show you what to expect for entering Tier 1 content, shows you some of the boss design encounters and how they may flow. Also, this video can serve as a purpose to show you one of the ways to play the Great Weapon Fighter. If you like doing a lot of AoE damage, then try this style out. I'm not saying that this is the only way, but this is just my way, and you may like it if you give it a try. I have learned that playing a Great Weapon Fighter is not always about doing top damage and topping DPS meters. A lot of it is about crowd control, helping keeping mobs off your healer, and dealing out massive amounts of AoE damage when needed. All in all, I am very satisfied with the Great Weapon Fighter class. I love that it's a match between a kind of like an off tank and a heavy melee DPS. I definitely love how they were able to mesh these two roles together and make a viable class. I want to thank you all for watching, and don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. I would love to be able to do YouTube and live stream full time, so I need y'all's help to do that. So yeah, just share this video, share it with all your friends who may play Neverwinter. It's people who are not interested or people who don't know about Neverwinter. Share it with them as well. See if we can, you know, get them on board. The more people this game has, then the more fun it'll be. So yeah, don't forget to do that for me. I do appreciate it. I love you all. Peace. I'm out.